He is risen. I'm trying to do this thing where I don't. There's a French door right in back of me, so I'm trying to do this thing where I don't have the light like glaring through behind me like a halo that blinds everything. So now I look like I have hepatitis, but whatever. Um, it's not like I have a budget for this thing. Anyway, happy Easter. Gosh, it was such a heavy duty Lent for me. I had, I'm not kidding, for like 7 straight weeks, I had these kind of like 14-hour days, up early. I mean, I do this anyway. I get up early and I pray, for a couple hours, probably all told, at least. But then, as you get older, you constantly having to, keep your body in shape. And there's the walk and the yoga and the gym and the daily holy hour and daily mass and all the stuff of uh, a working person still, and planning my own travel and on and on and on, um, like we all do. But it was just like a lot of hours a day devoted to sort of prayer and yeah, walking with Christ. And so then, of course, the Triduum comes, and by that time, if you're anything like me, you're so wrung out already emotionally. And so it was kind of classic. I did the whole Triduum at this church up the street, and the Thursday night, um, beautiful washing of the feet, mass. The Friday, of course, 3 p.m. The reading of the Passion narrative, the veneration of the cross, uh, the Eucharist, of course, and then the Easter Vigil, which was 2 hours. There were no baptisms. I swear, the entire time for every single one of those services, there was not 1 second where there was not at least one child crying, whining, talking, galloping about the aisles, or emitting piercing screams every single moment. And and then Thursday, on top of it, after we had the washing of the feet and the beautiful mass and the Holy Thursday Mass, and then of course we go. The Eucharist is, I guess it's called the ciborium, is removed to this other room, and you go and sit in silence. Well, the incense. This place is attached to a school, so it was actually in a kind of a classroom, and the incense set off the fire alarm. So which they can't turn off until the fire department comes. So we sat there as long as we possibly could, which wasn't very long for most people, with this, this is an emergency the whole time in front of them. So, and afterward, I just thought, it's so like the resurrection. The resurrection is not this triumphal. It's very weird. It has just that queer twist about it that real things have, as C.S. Lewis said of Christianity. Um, I mean, look at the gospel today. It's Tuesday. Is a beautiful reading where Christ appears to Mary in the garden. Where is my Lord? They've taken him. I don't know where they put him. And she turns around, Mary, and she sees him and doesn't recognize him at first, but then says, Rabboni. He immediately says, don't touch me. It's so classic. We're like, wow, we want to hold on to you. And like the disciples on the road and the supper after the road to Emmaus, they recognize him and he vanishes from their sight. He is always veiled, I think, almost always. We get very, very brief glimpses and then he disappears. But that is it. The Triduum, the crucifixion, the resurrection, all of Catholicism, not about having an experience, not about being calm, not about how I feel, not about me, ever. And so is really, uh, in retrospect, it's just classic. It's just, yep, this is it. I did go and help the other ladies, and some men too, clean the church on the Saturday morning before the vigil, and that was just fantastic. I got to, wash the pews down with Murphy's oil soap and just kind of pray the rosary. The priest father came in and took the purple cloths off of Christ, the crucifix and the statues in preparation. So it was all, it's like, oh, look, they're unveiling the statues. No one really cared but me. But um, it's just because I spend so much time by myself. I think I have these, uh, things seem to tend to assume this like this great significance. Anyway, I just want to read this one. As you may know, Father Donald Haggerty also accompanied me, or I accompanied him through Lent very much, and his book, Conversion, I slowly am rereading. And here's this great passage that sort of ties in with what I just reflected on vis-a-vis the resurrection. Where does God lead souls that find no secure place in this world, but into the desert of the heart? The desert within them. And of course, I am literally in a desert, like the Sonoran Desert. And trust me, it's a desert. The desert within them is the secret destiny of these souls, not by their own design, but by a divine choice. They seem to find no permanence in any one place or in any lasting company, no matter how hard you try and how much effort you put into it. They belong to God alone, and He makes this divine choice evident to them. But for that realization, a conversion is necessary. They may live among crowds, enmeshed in activity, surrounded by noise, but their solitude belongs to God, and they have to accept it. When these souls discover the great attraction of solitude with God, usually after some years of struggle, their hearts are finally at peace. The solitary heart becomes for them an enclosure for God, and they are at last content. They have found the inner sanctum where, alone with God, they are never really alone. Interior solitude becomes a most welcome refuge, and it does not matter if God does not speak there. The silence has become a sacred companion in every hour of solitude. The solitude may be stark and bare, but a thirst for God is present in the silence. Even with a fire alarm going off on one of the holiest nights in the liturgical season. So I love that. And I was saying to a friend on Easter Sunday, I say, when I die, I just want a mass in the most ordinary, could be an ugly 1970s suburban church with a deacon who stumbles over the words, the priest who, goes to Medjugorje, which is not my exact thing. It doesn't, because those are the churches that for 35 years or however long it's been, I came in 1996, so I guess 34 years. Those are the churches in which I have been formed, that have sheltered me, that have safeguarded the Eucharist, where there's always been a priest, a pew, a mass, a confessional. And yeah, those are some of my thoughts. It's like the darkness is 49% and the resurrection is 51. It's like, it's not, oh, we are really humming along now. It's like, oh wow, okay, I got enough strength to get up for one more day. I had to lie. I really had to. Then I was supposed to go. I got invited for Easter dinner, but it was going to be outside and it rained here. So I was so looking forward to I could have some ham or some meat or something substantial. But that got called off just as well. I really needed a massive day of rest, so I laid in bed and ate a lot of sugar. Not totally in bed, but yeah, I rested up. And I'm flying to LA into LA on Friday. I'm gonna visit friends and go up to the Central Coast. I'm going to this place on Friday. I'm going to fly and rent a car and I'm going to the Western Foundation of Vertebrate Zoology in Camarillo. It's this little museum apparently. And all I know is they have tons of birds' eggs, this huge collection of birds' eggs. So I'm going to go there up to the Central Coast with my friends to this place called the Carrizo Plain that apparently is just lousy with wildflowers right now. And then I'll go back to LA and visit with friends and yeah, just enjoy my beloved city. And I just wanted to say, yeah, so it's beautiful. You know, we say the Gloria every day during this octave of Easter. I mean, it is a even if you're totally wrung out, it is such we get to say Hallelujah. Christ is it's such a beautiful liturgical season, and you know that we have many weeks left of the Easter season. We just wanted to put in a plug for uh, one of the delights of my life, which are the little free libraries that you may have in your own neighborhood. We have a bunch of them, and as you may know, I mean, I can never pass. It's like a candy store. I just cannot pass by without peeking in, and um, and you get a bunch of duds. And a lot of times there's nothing there of a whole lot of interest, but then sometimes you get this total gem. So I was walking by this kind of out of the way one that I don't usually go to. Um, a couple last week actually, and so my eyes light up on this little. It's a penguin, one of these old penguin books. Um, you know, old timey. Probably cost 25 cents or something like that when it was new. Um, anyway, My Family and Other Animals by Gerald Durrell. And the title caught my eye. And I just kind of opened it. You know, you can open a book and just read a paragraph or two and know whether it's worth it. And I thought, oh, this looks good. And I thought, oh, Gerald Durrell, I wonder if he's any relation to Lawrence Durrell, who wrote the Alexandria Quartet. And those were books that I remember this line between Brindisi and Corfu, the blue began. That was a line from Lawrence Durrell, and he was kind of a you know, it's the type of person I would be very attracted to in my 20s when I was like drinking and um, gallivanting, sleeping around basically. I think not so much now. Would I be wanting to read his novels? Although I did buy one of his books, The Greek Islands, I think. Anyway, they're brothers. They were brothers. And Gerald Durrell, as it turns out, was every bit, if not more, actually well known than his brother. And this is the best of his many books, or I should say, the most well known, My Family and Other Animals. And they had this kind of wacky, eccentric Anglo Indian family. They were born in India, the kids. There were four of them, three boys and a girl. And went back to England and just hated it, and they hated the weather, and plus they were kind of running out of money. The father had died when they were kind of young, and they had this kind of dotty mother who just was a total spendthrift and tippled gin. Um, but they had this kind of menage that worked in a weird way. So they went and lived in Corfu kind of famously for maybe 4 years or something like that. First, they had the strawberry pink villa and then the daffodil yellow. They would move into these crumbling villas that were surrounded by lemon groves and fantastic birds and vegetation and the smell of wild thyme and like that. And Gerald Durrell was a total self-taught nut from a very young age about animals of all kinds, poisonous snakes, tiny insects, sea creatures, and so it's all about this idyllic, in the telling anyway, childhood that, of course, like all good things, came to an end. Although he did grow up to sort of start a zoo and became a very well known wildlife conservationist, but he was one of these guys. Anyway, then I read this whole, so of course I had to get a whole biography of him, this thick biography, much of which I read yesterday. And he's just a larger than life figure. You can't help but like him. He's a bon vivant and loved his, I mean, he kind of died of cirrhosis of the liver. I mean, he drank and he ate in huge quantities, traveled everywhere, put himself in very dangerous situations, very charismatic. I mean, sadly, he's one of these people, though, who likes animals better than people, which I'm always I'm like, nah, there's something very wrong there. And he felt like, the problem with the planet was there's too many people, and people need to stop breeding, basically, need to get rid of the people. And it's like, yeah, well, stick around because now the birth rate is so low because we're all so freaked out and people don't even have sex anymore, for heaven's sakes, because they just sit in front of their phones all day and are afraid of contamination, I think. Now we're in danger of there won't be enough people. Anyway, it's just interesting, as everything is, if you come to it, I guess, with curiosity. But it's a wonderful, wonderful. This is just a fantastic book, a fantastic, idyllic childhood in the days before technology and tourism totally took over. So it was a great joy. And now, um, yeah, there's a couple other books. One I feel like I want to read because, of course, he tells the story his way, and the truth is a little bit, maybe a little more harsher. So, but that's how my kind of life and my reading go. A lot of times, I'll be reading a bunch of different stuff, but I love when you find a book. Oh, how did I never come across this before? And then it opens up a whole other world. And from there, there's some guy who I also don't know about, Laurie Lee, who apparently was a very famous British. There's all these kind of British self-taught naturalist types. And he too wrote, I guess, a beautiful book about his childhood. It's a guy, Cider with Rosie or something like that, which I've also got on my list. Okay, happy Easter. I will be in LA next week, so maybe I'll report from there. Okay, take care.